Hello, shalom, and welcome again to Pearls of Joy, Tru-Truth. The title of this video is Tithe is Fruit that comes from seed, and this will serve as part 4. Praise Yahuwah, the Most High, the one and only true Elohim. Alleluia. Yahuwah. In this part of the video teaching, I will reiterate the fact that fruit is not money and money is not fruit. I'm going to do a brief summary or overview of what I talked about in the other 3 videos, and I hope you take the opportunity to go back and take a look at those. There's a lot of information in that. Of course, I can't cover it all, but just briefly, fruit have seeds that contain life, as in blood and oil and water. Money don't have seeds. And this is what we are to tithe. Fruit. And why do we tithe? We tithe to reverence Yahuwah always, and to be thankful and to be grateful for his blessings that he has blessed us with. The blessings that are mentioned in the book of Malachi is rain. It is not money. The rain is the good treasure to bless us. It is a pleasure for the Most High to bless us, but we rob him when we don't bring our best. The windows of heaven is mentioned in the book of Genesis. It is the first mention that I have seen in the scriptures, and that is in Genesis 7:11, and it says, the windows of heaven opened and poured rain to flood the earth. This is during the flood when Noah built the ark. In Genesis 8:2, it says the windows of heaven are restrained from pouring out the rain, meaning that after it flooded and did its job, the windows of heaven closed to restrain the rain. Malachi 3:10 says the windows of heaven poured out rain. And Deuteronomy 28:12 says the good treasure, the heaven, to give rain in due season. This clarifies that the blessing is rain. It is not money. Fruit comes from a seed, and money comes from the mineralization of the land. Religious doctrines change the meaning of words to fit into their man-made religious systems. In this case, fruit has become money to tithe from your paycheck. The fruit of your labor comes from you working your crops and your cattle and your sheep and your grains. This is agricultural farming. The increase of your fruit is not money, as the doctrine teaches. The fruit of your labor is the increase that comes from working your crops. Tithing is a biblical commandment, but the instructions have been taken out of its original context. Tithe of an animal seed is used and acceptable as sacrifice according to ceremonial laws because animals contain life, as in blood and water. The blood represents life. Water represents cleansing that prepares for life. Water is purification. It purifies, it detoxifies, like the storms we had some years ago called Katrina. The very word Katrina means purification. The flooding of the earth before Noah built the ark was for the purpose of cleaning the earth, because the earth had become intoxicated due to the sins of man. The meat of the sacrificed animal was used as food as well, without the blood, of course. Deuteronomy 14:23. We was to eat the sacrifice before Yahuwah. The fruit of an animal was for sacrifice for sin. The remainder was eaten by the priests at times and by the people at other times. Cain's offering for sin was not received because there was no blood in what he offered. When an offering for sin is made, life for life is required. This was an exchange in place of or instead of shedding one's own blood to satisfy the death penalty for sin. Cain's offering came from the ground. It consisted of that which brings health and healing to the blood of the flesh. Cain must have brought fruit and or vegetables from the ground. His sacrifice represented provision for the flesh and the flesh only. Before Cain, or I believe that Cain was unrepentant, rebellious, and indulged in self-justification. The fruit of trees and vegetation is of a different kind of lifeblood for different purposes. They contain oil. Oil is for strength. They contain water and vitamins and minerals. Plant lifeblood brings health and healing to the flesh that flows through the blood of the flesh. These serve as food, provision, a gift from Yahuwah that can also be given as a gift to others in times of feasting and fellowshipping, Genesis 18:3 and 6. The feast of Yahuwah, which are Sabbaths, they are parties. Tithing is for the party after the sacrifice for sin has been satisfied. Cain must have thought that it was party time. The scripture says, forgive your brother before you bring an offering. Otherwise, your sin is upon you and your offering will not be accepted. Matthew 5:23. The people of Yahuwah are the invited guests. And the feast for the Sabbaths are parties where guests are invited to gather, to eat, to drink, for entertainment, celebration, and festivity. This is when you put on your glad rags and party. This is where the idea of dressing up in church came from. You take this time of partying to enjoy, to make music, and to make merry. Deuteronomy 14:24 through 26 says, rejoice, do this with gladness, you and your household. Another party can be a home Sabbath service at a private home for conversation and refreshments. Money is an offering. Money is used in accordance to principle guidelines. Money is the product of land produced through mineralization. It has no fluid like blood or water. Real money is silver, gold, onyx, bdellium, and that is in Genesis 2:11 and 12. Money, which is also considered to be talent, can pass on for means, for payment for trade, for things such as seeds, labor, houses, land, food, clothes, etc. When we give money to our congregations or where we gather for fellowship, that money should be for the servant, the one who is has labored and is bringing forth the word, and for the sufficiency to operate the building, whether it has a mortgage or utilities or any other expenses that comes with that. Another principle, concept, or guideline for money is give, and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over shall men give into your bosom. This is giving, offering, not a tithe. If you give to the poor, you will never lack. The collection that was taken up by Paul for the poor and the needy was so that there would be no lack among Israel. I can go a little bit further into that, but I'm not going to go there because this giving is for the community of Israel. We should have all things in common. Abraham gave a tenth out of his spoils that he gained through his warring with the wicked kings, and he gave this tenth to Melchizedek. That's in Hebrews 7:4 and Genesis chapter 14, specifically verse 18 of that chapter. Melchizedek brought bread and wine. They had a party. Melchizedek is not the name of the person. Melchizedek means king of righteousness. And the king of righteousness at that time was Shem. Shem was the priest at that time. This is the reason why Abraham gave tithe to Melchizedek, fulfilling the command of Deuteronomy 14:2 and 29, do not forsake the Levi that is with you, because he have no inheritance. Abraham was very rich in cattle, in sheep, in oxen, in camels. I see no indication that he gave money here, as in silver and gold. Not that it wasn't there, I just didn't see any mention of it. The fellowship with the bread and wine tells me that there was other food as well, and they could have sacrificed animals like the offerings of a feast. And I believe that this was a feast because Melchizedek was the priest. He kept the temple, and the tithe was to be brought to the temple so that it could be stored up, so that there would be food in the house of Yahuwah. Melchizedek was a priest of Yahuwah. He had no inheritance. So therefore, this is telling me this was a feast, and this was the party of the feast. Jacob vowed to give tithe to Yahuwah. Genesis 28:22. This vow is carried on to Jacob's seed to this day, Israel. This is the blessing of Jacob's inheritance. That's Isaiah 58:14. This is a land inheritance. An inheritance to be inherited through the seed of Jacob. Now, I want to conclude this actually. And in conclusion, I reiterate again, tithe is fruit that comes from seed. Fruit is not money. Money is not fruit. And I said before, tithing is a biblical concept. It's just that it's been taken out of context. And yes, I believe in tithing in the correct context. I also believe that we are to give. We should give. I hope you will stay tuned in and come back to Pearls of Joy, Tru-Truth. I'm going to add another teaching to this particular teaching, and that particular teaching will be about seeds. So stay tuned. Shalom.